Hey there, what's up? I'm Subhashish Biswal. Today I'll show you how I batch upscale images. Or in other words, how I upscale images in bulk. I'll be upscaling around 200 to 300 images using this method. Why did I build this? There are many upscaling workflows available, but they're usually time-consuming. They produce good results, but my system has very limited RAM and VRAM. Just 16 gigabytes RAM and a 4 gigabyte VRAM RTX 3500 GPU, which makes high-quality upscaling and ComfyUI image generation difficult. When I tried to load and upscale images in large batches, I kept getting out-of-memory errors. To solve that, I developed a simple trick that worked well for me. I can now produce 4K images from 1024 by 1024 sources. First, I created a simple ComfyUI workflow just for upscaling. That's all, nothing else. The workflow needs an upscaler model, a load image node, the upscaler node itself, and a save/output node. You can add more nodes if you want. To get nodes, open the manager, go to Install Missing, search, and install what you need. I'm using the ComfyUI Essentials package. Search for Essentials. It has about 86 nodes, and that's enough for this project. After building the workflow, select one image, or leave it empty, and save the workflow with a name. Then click the icon, go to File arrow Export as API. Add _API to the file name, and save it somewhere convenient. I saved mine in desktop/upscale project. That's where I'll keep the workflow JSON. We're upscaling multiple images, but for reference, you'll see a single image run first. Also, I should mention Upscaler models. You can download them from Civitai. On Civitai, create an account, then filter by all time and model type Upscaler. Most of the useful upscalers are free. I'm using the Remacri upscaler here, but you can pick any you prefer. The exported JSON looks like this. It includes the upscale model node, save image and load image nodes, and each node has a unique ID. These IDs matter if you're calling the workflow from code. Next, I wrote a small Python script to automate the batch processing. I actually had very little Python knowledge. I told ChatGPT and Claude what I needed, and they produced the code. You don't need to be a Python expert. AI helpers can handle any errors you run into. I use Visual Studio to run the Python script, but any IDE will work. I'll show how I run it in Visual Studio. If you use another editor, I'll note alternatives later. To use Python in Visual Studio, you should install the Python development workload via the Visual Studio installer. When installing Visual Studio, select Python Development and install. Then open Visual Studio 2022, choose Create a New Project, and pick a Python console application. Select your project location. I name mine Upscale Project and create the project. Now paste the Python code into the project. If you see an import error, for example, import requests, we'll fix that next. If Visual Studio complains that it can't import requests, create a Python environment in Visual Studio first. Click Python Environments, arrow Add Environment, then create it. I use Python 3.12 on my laptop. After creating the environment, right-click, View All Environments, select our environment, and open the Package Manager, PyPI. Search for requests and run the suggested pip install request command. That will install the package. Once installed, save everything, and if needed, restart Visual Studio. The import error should disappear. If a minor sonar or lint warning remains, green or informational, it's fine. The code should run. Next, we need the ComfyUI server address and port. Open ComfyUI, go to Settings, Servers, Server Config. Copy the host IP and the port. Default is 8000. You'll use these values in the Python code. You also need to set the Comfy root. That's the path where ComfyUI is installed on your PC. For me, it's under Documents/ComfyUI. Point the script to that folder. Set your input and output directories. I created an Upscale project folder on the desktop, then made a Photos folder for source images and an Upscale folder for outputs. Paste those full paths into the script settings. Make sure the workflow JSON you exported, the API file, is placed near the project folder. Copy the JSON file path into the script's workflow_JSON setting. There's an optional force model name setting in the script. If the workflow JSON does not specify the model name, You can add the model name here, for example, Remacri, or the specific 4x model. I didn't need it, so I left it blank. Now add your source images to the Photos folder. I'll put 4 sample images here. All are 1024 by 1024 and around 300 to 400 kilobytes each. Keep ComfyUI open in your browser while the script runs. Run the Python script. If you see an error pop up, don't panic. It often still runs internally. You'll see the process progress in the ComfyUI desktop UI. For 4 images, it's very fast and it will create 4K outputs. When complete, the files are saved in the Upscale folder inside your project. The saved files will be much larger, for example, 16 to 21 megabytes, and are now 4K resolution images. Note: Visual Studio is not the only way to run the script. The code is what matters. If you prefer VS Code, a different IDE, or running from the command line, the same script can work. You just need to install the required packages and set the same paths. To summarize, put the code and workflow JSON into the project, add your images to the Photos folder, and run. I tested this with 300 images, all 1024 by 1024. And it produced 4K images for every file. It took about 2 hours total for 300 images, which is expected for 4K upscaling. Why this works on low-spec systems? The script processes images one at a time. It sends a single image to ComfyUI, waits for it to finish and save, then moves to the next image. Because it never queues all images in memory at once, it avoids VRAM and RAM exhaustion. That's it. That's how I mass upscale images using ComfyUI and a small Python wrapper. If you liked the video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with your friends. Thanks!